What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. Just got finished guest appearing on the official live stream, and if you weren't aware, if you didn't tune in, Mashu and Luca will be leaving the Epic 7 scene. So if you ever get a chance, maybe leave a video on their respective videos saying goodbye, all that stuff. But anyways, a little bit of a bittersweet ending. However, I was able to get some Abyssal Yufine time before that, and you already know the drill, guys. I'm going to tell you all straight up, if she's worth summoning, at least first impressions. Remember, all these units that are new, no matter who tells you what, they take some time to really understand where they're going to fit in the long run. But I think most players, most content creators especially, already have kind of a feel, at least the ones that have been playing her for most of today. But yeah, so as you guys already know, let me know how your summons went. I started the day, I think, at 9,800 mystics, so it took me exactly 3,000 mystics. We got her on the dot. So far, guys, I did pity Kane. I think I pitied a few other Covenant banners, but my mystic luck at least has been holding up. So good thing for that. If you do end up pitting, I'm so sorry. It's really rough spending up to 10,000 mystics, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to ask me, is Abyssal Yufine worth up to 10,000 mystics? Let's find out right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get to it. So honest review time, is Abyssal Yufine worth up to 10,000 of your hard-earned mystics? Probably not. Now, if you do like how she looks, guys, she's not a bad unit if you have the gear to back it up, and you're okay not being able to first pick her in every single one of your real-time arena games. I feel like I'm saying that a lot for a lot of these units that come out lately, but the truth of the matter is she's not a power crept, she's not a meta definer, meta breaker style unit as the likes of like Lua, Conquer, Lilius, the ones that you can see almost every single game. However, I do think she will fulfill a role. And I think that I like that Smilegate tried out this unique kit, and it works well enough. She's probably just fair. So those of you that really need the best bang for your buck on your mystics, and you're only going for power level in-game, she's probably something you should wait until later. And get one of those other, ML5s that I mentioned. Silius, Mediator Coeric, things like that. But overall, we're going to get into the skill set in just a second, what I like about it, what kind of sucks, what you need to keep in mind of gear, artifacts, all that good stuff as we do in our honest reviews. But just remember, at the end of the day, try to just take a look at what you need on your account. If you're going more for collection, looks, or if you just want to get a power level style unit. Because I do think for those of you that do like Abyssal Yufine, and if you do want some help with anti-cleave, then that's going to shift you more towards the pull priority list. If you need some anti-cleave help and you like how she looks and you think you can gear her appropriately, I think you should go for it. She's just not quite a must-have unit that I will tell every single one of you to pull, like ML Landy, like those other ones I keep mentioning. It is what it is, but yeah. Let's go ahead and break down the build that I have and what I was testing today. So I started with Lifesteal Set, and I feel like I'm starting on Lifesteal Set on a lot of units lately, but this one felt better than most. I still am going to try putting her on a set like maybe Destruction, but let's go ahead and talk about the stats that I have right here and what I'm kind of going for. So Abyssal Yufine is a bruiser, a very unique style bruiser, but she's going to want almost every stat with the exception of effectiveness and effect resist. Honestly, if I could get some effect resist on her, I'd like it, but she does have some cleansing, self-cleansing help, and we have no room to go for extra stats. I'll tell you why I liked effect resist here in just a little bit, or why she might want it, just can't have it because she's so greedy for every other stat. But in terms of the thresholds, guys, the most important number one is obviously 2,000 defense, and that's because on her skill 3, the trauma effect, we want to make sure that we stay above 2,000. That way we get the absolute bonus. In all honesty, though, guys, in every game I forced her in, I played every single match, RTA match today, and she was present either on my side of the field or my opponent's side of the field. And almost not a single time I think we got to the point where she was able to skill 3. She really requires a specific kind of setup. But yeah, I'll talk more on that later. So anyways, just make sure you have 2,000 defense so we get the additional trauma effect. That should be your number one priority. And some of y'all may need to, I had to craft this defense ring. It's pretty good. I'm not complaining. It's definitely usable, but I'm sure we can do better later on. But you guys might need to craft a defense main stat ring if you're struggling on high defense percent subs on other pieces, or if you're lacking some imprint help. If you guys have higher imprint than me, then maybe you can get away with a different style of main stat. Other than that, though, make sure she has a lot of health too, because she is a bruiser. She does need to survive for quite a while until she can sort of pop off, or at least until she can maintain her position and provide value for the team, either through counters, attack breaks, and then maybe eventually the trauma. Speed, some people like. I know Elvmage came into my chat today. Shout out to Elvmage, and he said he was running a similar build to me on Lifesteal, but he likes 185 speed. In my findings, I don't think that part is too important, and Elv's gear is just insane. So guys, if you guys can get 185 speed, that's nice, but I honestly don't think you really need it depending on how competitive you guys are trying to climb or push. For me, it was just fine being at a 10 speed lower differential. And, you know, the ultimate thing is just make sure you guys use what gear you have available that kind of synergizes with her kit. Don't worry about it being perfect in the beginning. You'll work on it as things go. And maybe I will try to push more speed if I can roll some additional gear for Yufine. Maybe I'm going to swap off the lifesteal set. Last but not least, crit chance. Of course, she's very, very reliant on crit chance. I was trying lower crit chance builds. But yeah, I think having close to 100 because she does AoE. Plus, if you miss any crits while in trauma, you really want to make sure that's up to snuff. Last but not least is crit damage. And I think this is the one you can probably cut. And I think I might try, instead of like this necklace, for example, I might swap to like destruction just for the free stats. I think is insane. And then instead we could go crit chance neck, try to find a lot of pieces without crit damage on it. Or sorry, without crit chance on it, with a lot of crit damage subs. And then we'll sacrifice some there, but that would be way more efficient. So if anyone has some very nice crit chance necklaces, take a look, see what you can put on the main stat here, and then just try to make up the crit damage subs onto your other pieces. So that might be slightly more stat efficient if you can rock it. Other than that, I think lifesteal, destruction, I saw some people trying speed. Anything that gives you free stats, guys, will be very nice. But I do think lifesteal is kind of nice overall for the way that Abyssal Yufine runs and the way she wants to kind of survive in the matchup, right? In case you can't always have some insane sustain, it's nice whenever she procs her counter to get that additional lifesteal, and with how tanky she is naturally, with the, you know, because we're going to build 2,000 defense, that extra bit of lifesteal really, really helps her effective HP. So I'm trying it for now, but I might just swap to more stats on our sets. Other than that, I think the other piece is immunity. Other set is immunity. I've seen some people try like health, defense. If you really need to, maybe you could go crit chance, but I do think immunity is very important. And remember what I was talking about with the effect resist? Let's talk about that right now. Immunity is very nice for just a lot of things in the game. I know some people hate on this set because it doesn't feel great, doesn't provide stats, and so many units can kind of just strip it, right? And that's true. All of that can be true. At the same time, immunity can be very nice because there are going to be some matches where Conquer Lilies won't be able to just immediately strip. There's going to be some matches where you're not just straight up fighting units that ignore effect resist and remove all your buffs. A lot of matchups up against like Karina, for example, which for some reason I saw so much today, even though I didn't think I would. Karina landing defense breaks, Karina landing her S3 immediately landing defense break into a big pop. Anything that defense breaks Abyssal Yufine, besides her just being a bruiser, not wanting to just die instantly, but will also cut off a lot of her damage and, you know, potentially the trauma buff. I think the first turn of immunity is very important. So if it's a kind of a luxury, but I would almost highly suggest it if you guys are able to rock it. And that's kind of just what I meant by the 100 effect resist. If I could somehow get that on here, there's so many annoying debuffs that that would be really nice to kind of shrug off. But she's so stat hungry on the rest, it's just not viable. And once again, we have a dispel all debuffs when our fighting spirit is full, so we don't have to worry about that too much for the most part. We talk shop on skill enhancements and artifacts. She is a plus 15 unit, guys. I'm so sorry, but bruisers typically want to be plus 15. If you really have to skip, or skimp, I understand, because I keep asking all y'all's Mola situation. I know a lot of you guys are hurting for Molagora. I'm down to the 30s now. I can max out one more unit until I'm straight out. But I would say max out the skill 2 first, because I think this is really what sets her apart from other AoE knights in her category. Because if you don't have the combat readiness reduction, you're kind of just a worse off Navy Captain Landy, a worse off Bellion. You know, other knight units that we bring versus anti-cleave, anti-aggro that also bring other things to the table. I think this is what's going to make Abyssal Yufine really unique, besides, of course, the trauma and the shifting, which I'm still, this is very hard to pull off. But the attack break on the AoE S1, I think is very, very cool. And then, of course, when we're popping off in our altered state, it is good as well. So max out Inner Abyss first, in my opinion, just because that's how we're going to want to draft. That's where you're going to want to pick her in Guild Wars Arena RTA. Make sure your opponent, you can cut off a lot of your opponent's combat readiness shenanigans. And then after that, if you really got to save some Mola, I would just kind of maybe evenly level S1 and S3. The value Molagora, but maybe with an emphasis on skill 1, as a lot of times, like I mentioned, it's hard to get into the trauma. None of my opponents that I fought today that forced Abyssal Yufine ever even got to using close to getting skill 3. And then when I was playing 2, I think I only got it once, if that. Skill 1 is going to happen a lot, and even more so if you use Elbrus. So let's talk about this next. Elbrus Ritual Sword. This is kind of a match made in heaven. I think this is where most people will reach in the beginning, unless you're just lacking a lot of Elbruses. And now with Bellion and ML Landy, like I keep talking about, you're going to need another additional Elbrus Ritual Sword, myself included. So wait for that upcoming group summon banner and pick up some more with Charlotte if you can afford it. Other than that, the Elbrus just works really well with their kit. The units we're going to want to fight against typically have a lot of AoE. Anything with like combat readiness is probably they're pushing AoE comps. And so if you get any counters on Elbrus or her built-in counter, We're going to get that Dragon's Breath, which does a lot of damage to squishy units and has the attack break on top of it. So I think this is a no-brainer. Should be your first pick. Now, I did see some people experimenting and cooking with the, let me find it here, the Summer Break Charlotte artifact, the Mature Sunglasses. And funny enough, Bellion also, some Bellion players like to use this as well. It's very synergistic with Knights, gives crit damage, has some mitigation on top of that. But for me personally, I really value the maximizing the odds of proccing our attacks, and that's really where Elbrus is going to come into play, especially if our opponents have AoE or if they decide to ignore Abyssal Yufine. So in closing, guys, to wrap it up, the weaknesses I found on her kit obviously are anything that's anti-AoE. So if you look at units like Remnant Violet, Martial Artist Ken, anything with a defense break, Karina, for example, there's a lot of DPS units that are in the meta spot right now that can kind of counter her, and if you do end up using her trauma, she's very susceptible to just dying. That being said, I do think she is good enough because of the combat readiness on her skill 2 and the fact that we can stack Elbrus and she has the built-in counter set. I think she can pull off some cool stuff in the long run, but very, very niche, and if you want her in her best spot, it is typically just anti-aggro, anti-cleave. If you're ever fighting in a standard match and you try to pick her early, you will get hardcore punished. She may not do enough, and she'll probably just die before you get into the trauma skill 3. So be very careful just picking her in all cases. You really need to pick and choose her carefully to make the most use out of her kits. I think we'll wrap things up there, guys. Looks wise, 10 out of 10. So I was going to pull her regardless. The fact that she has a niche spot in anti-cleave and the fact that she uses Elbrus, I love these counter style units. It was a no-brainer for me, but I think for a lot of y'all that aren't in love with both her looks or her playstyle, you can comfortably skip this and save for a different, more meta unit until you pick her up later down the line. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.